Hello, and thanks for joining me on another edition of Real Money Stories. I'm your host, Jason Butler, and I'm the guy with probably one of the best jobs in the world because every week I speak to amazingly interesting people from a wide range of backgrounds. And today I'm super excited because I've got someone I really, really rate. She's all over social media. She's got a very, very interesting backstory, and and she's super smart. She knows what she's talking about, and that is Lisa Conway.
Hello.
Hi, Aka Miss Lolly, I should just say that. Yes, absolutely. We'll get into that in a bit. So Lisa, thanks for joining today. Really excited that you've been on. I know you've got lots of stuff, but before we go into your backstory, can you just tell everyone what it is you actually sort of do for your day job, as it were?
Yeah. So, Monday to Thursday, I'm a financial advisor. I work at Westminster Wealth. And I've been a financial advisor now for 15 years coming up.
Oh.
So I know I was thinking I need to have a big party this year, but I probably won't be allowed.
Dear me, you've only looked like you've been out of school a few years. Come on.
Very kind.
So that's Monday to Thursday.
Yeah, and then on Fridays I do my Miss Lolly Day, which is where it started off just as a blog, and now it's progressed into so many more things than that. And I've also just recently joined the She's on the Money team as well. So Fridays is my day of recording lots of content for social media and doing lots of educational videos, explaining money in normal language, hopefully, so that people can, I suppose, demystifying our world, really. I think a lot of people have prided themselves on making finances seem difficult for far too long. So that's my Friday mission.
Yeah, and I love what you're about. She's on the money, well worth looking at. You've got a podcast, haven't you?
Yeah.
You're on Instagram and you've got a YouTube channel, I think, as well. So well worth checking them out, whether you're a man or a woman. So, always good stuff. I always like to look at what other people are doing, but I love what Lisa just knows what she's doing. There's a lot of people on Instagram who talk about money who actually don't really know much about money, all right? And there's a lot of what I call charlatans. But Lisa is one of the good guys and girls because she actually is super smart and she does know what she's doing and she does make it simple. So really check that out. Well worth it. So Lisa, let's just go back in time because I just want to know about how you developed your relationship with money and what your sort of can you remember what your earliest money memory was?
Do you know, it's really funny. I think I was always really quite focused on money. And when I was really little, so until my mum remarried, it was just me and my mum, and I was always really conscious of what money we did and didn't have. And I felt, could have only have been 4 or 5 then. And then when my mum remarried, still really, really young, I think in my junior school days, there wasn't much spare money around. So that's definitely, they say your money mindset is set by the age of 7. So maybe that's when I started to become a bit obsessed with money. I remember I can't remember what the TV program was, but I'd watched a program where the man was a solicitor and he had this really big house in the country. So I decided from then that's when I wanted to be a solicitor.
Oh dear. Thank God the world of law's been spared that one. So okay, let's just be clear. So your mum and dad split up when you were young. Did you have siblings?
No.
Okay,
no.
So it's just so you were the whole focus of your mum's attention. So you were very aware that money wasn't it was a bit tight. But I mean, was it a really poor upbringing or was it okay but you just didn't have access? What was it sort of like, and how was that compared to your school friends?
Well, in junior school, it felt a very normal upbringing, but there definitely wasn't lots of money around. But I mean, we weren't scrabbling for food on the table. And then when I was in secondary school, my mum and dad went to live in South Africa. So then I went to a boarding school, and I definitely felt poor then. Everyone had so much more money than I would ever. I don't really ever even come across, actually. Like, people were getting the flashiest cars before they could even drive, and it just felt a very different world to me.
How did that make you feel then? First of all, coming from a modest upbringing, you had enough food for the table, you knew there wasn't excess, and then you went to a boarding school where everyone else was like a rock star.
I know. I think it's what made me really ambitious. So as soon as I was allowed to, like in the school holidays, even before, I would be doing paper rounds. just to try and get some money in. And then when I was 16, I was always juggling 2 or 3 jobs at a time in the restaurants in the evenings, nightclubs, and that kind of thing on the weekend. I would do anything really, like wash the pots, pick the glasses up. I was really focused on earning money. And then I think my next temptation into money and realizing what people had is I started working as a Saturday girl in Harvey Nichols, and that just blew my mind. I couldn't understand how people were spending all that money on fashion. And I love clothes, but that was just a new world to me, which I loved as well.
So Harvey Nichols, is not exactly known for its getting people to hold back and think about what's important in life. It's just you need it, right? Karl Lagerfeld said, "We've got something no one needs." So that's the whole temptation thing. What did that teach you, or what did you take from that as you were seeing people spend money on enormous, that would have taken you a week to earn or a couple of weeks to earn on stuff? What did you pick up from that?
The honest answer, and it's not a nice answer, I just felt jealously motivated. I was like, when I'm older, I'm going to do that.
Envy.
And but looking back, I really had a lot of restraint, because I think it was 40% discount we used to get. I can't remember. It was a decent amount of discount that we could have had. And I had a student loan. I could have got into loads of debt. But I was really restrained.
So you didn't. Okay, so you observed the debauchery spending and that. Okay, did you go to university or did?
Yeah. So when I was at uni in Leeds, I was working at the Harvey Nichols. Probably, I don't know, 3 days a week, probably something like that.
So that was when you, because I always think you look so young, but there was still, you had to have student financing and stuff. How did you cope through uni? Did you continue to work through uni? Did you rack up debt, or how did you navigate that?
Well, I would always be. So in your first year, you're allowed a £500 overdraft, £1,000 and £1,500. I was always, by the end of the summer term, at my maximum overdraft. But the holidays were when I would really go for it and work really hard. I used to make myself ill actually working so hard. I would have a normal day job, and then I would go and work in a bar or a restaurant, really focusing on getting the tips in the evenings. And then when I was at uni, my day-to-day living, so my student loan paid for my accommodation, then the school fees, the uni fees were £1,000, so my dad paid the £1,000 tuition fees, and then my day-to-day living, going out and having fun, was by me working in a bar and working in Harvey Nichols. So I've always had lots of little jobs as a teenager and as a student. And then even when I started my sort of first stint into financial services, I was earning so poorly. I still continued. I actually was a tequila girl for my first 2 years of
I bet there's a few stories there. Yeah.
Well, I just never wanted to go anywhere where my clients could possibly be.
Yeah.
Talk about mixed messages.
So so there was this push and pull between the temptation of, I want to be able to buy stuff, but you hadn't actually worked out whether that was going to make you happy or that was the route to the way forward. But you were seeing that, and you were super motivated to earn money, and you hustled, and you understood the value of it. So what was your relationship with money like when you left university or when you came out?
Well, I look back and cringe. I was just so focused on getting a well-paid job that I would actually apply in the Times for the creme de la creme jobs. But they say that females are meant to have a lot of imposter syndrome. I really, really didn't. I was the opposite. Just thought I could do it, no bother.
So you thought like a bloke then?
Yeah, well, probably even worse. Maybe a bit more like a psychopath. Apply for that CEO job.
All right, so this is really interesting, because I was just reading about imposter syndrome yesterday, because I've got this new book coming and we've been working on for bloody months. And imposter syndrome is an interesting one, and also it's linked to identity, and it's linked to the role of work and earning. You didn't have that at all. You just thought you were going to start at the top and work your way down, right?
Yeah.
And how did that help you? So you put all these, you applied for all these jobs. Did you get any bites? Did you get anyone saying, look, do you know what, this could be our future CEO?
No, no one replied. Correctly so.
Yeah.
But I think I did go for a lot of like oil trading jobs, stock brokering jobs, mainly because I knew that that was originally where I thought the money would be, and that's purely what I was after.
What were your interests at that time? I'm interested because you're talking about the roles you were going for was purely about money, but what actually were you good at and what did you enjoy?
I didn't really know then, to be honest.
Were you very left brain, very right brain, mixture of the two? Were you super creative, ultra
So
logical?
I'm really logical, which is perhaps where the imposter syndrome doesn't come in. I don't think about things. It's very, yeah.
High IQ, but EQ was being developed. Emotional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, yeah, just, I had a target, which was to have a nice house in London and a good job, and I wanted a Max Mara coat. So I needed to earn some money.
All right. So tell us about, so when you left uni then and you were trying to get these jobs, did you hustle and do just any job in between while you were finding the perfect job, or did you wait it out, and how did you navigate that?
I think I was really lucky. So when the CEO jobs didn't even reply, I then my first job out of uni was for Jaeger, working in their merchandising department. And that was really, it's just the maths really behind the buying is the way that I used to look at it. And well, I don't think Jaeger can sue me for saying this, but it really, really disheartened me. I started at the bottom. There was a girl who used to do merchandising in another department. I was paid 15,000. She was paid 23, both straight out of uni. But the difference between the two of us was her dad owned the factory where a lot of the clothes were made. And I was furious with that. I was also furious because my job on a Monday used to start at 7 a.m. making all of the reports for the sales meetings, and the other person didn't have to come in for that job. And it just felt immediately like this pure dream that I had of you could do anything was a little bit tainted by that. And I remember having a chat with my dad about how unfair it was. He was like, "Oh, Lisa, that's just real life. Get over it." And it broke my heart a bit. And I just became so unmotivated in that job. I just thought sod you. And I was a terrible employee there. I really didn't work hard. I didn't care enough. And I was like, I need to get out of here because I can't start my career with this mindset. And then I went traveling for a year. Well, not quite a year, almost a year. And then I came back and got my first job working for a firm of financial advisors. And the very first firm was run probably by the bad of our industry, really. And I was really ashamed by it once I'd come out of the end of it, because I just thought, God, that's so embarrassing. I can't believe I stayed there. But I learned so much. I basically learned how not to be in my industry. So in a way, I'm pleased that was my first job.
But how did you decide that financial services was and you wanted to work with numbers and people, or did you just get that first job and you thought, well, that's a way into something where I can earn money? Or was there a clear career path, or was it just hazy?
I joined purely because, and I remember today very clearly, the recruiter introduced me to a girl who was 1 year ahead of me, and she was like, she's taking home $7,000 a month net. And I was like, what? And I remember thinking, God, I could I want that. That was really,
that would be helpful.
I wanted that $7,000 a month net. That was purely,
it was yours. You could see it was yours. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I fell for that line, hook, line and sinker. I don't know whether she was really earning the $7,000 a month net, but I just remember thinking, God, if I get this job, I could I remember taking some of my family members. I could take them on holiday. I could clear my student loan in no time. I could get that deposit for the house that I wanted. And I just started to build the goals, financial goals in my head around that $7,000 a month.
So you already had all the ideas you were going to spend the money on. The only issue was you weren't actually spending the money, right?
Yeah, I didn't have any.
No. And what was your financial situation like as you went into that job? Did you have overdrafts? Did you have credit cards, or were you okay there, just a few bits and bobs?
No, I've never really been in debt because I've always worked all those different jobs. So when I first moved to London and got that first job, I was living with my my then boyfriend's mum and dad, so there's no rent to pay. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I would work in a local bar restaurant to make sure that I could get my train ticket. And I remember I used to have a Sunday night babysitting session, which was £25 while they went to the cinema. And at the time,
£25, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it was on £5 an hour.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, it was only watching telly, isn't it?
Yeah. And that used to be my train ticket money for the next week, because my train ticket at that time was £25. So I was never shy of working hard.
So you always had money coming in. Were you good at spending it as well, or were you accumulating and saving it?
No, not at that time. At that time, I wasn't necessarily good at spending. I definitely have far more expensive taste now than I did then. But same as I would never spend money that I don't have. And because I wasn't earning very much in the first few months, first 6 months to a year really, because it was really I wasn't expecting a real sales-based role, really commission-driven. I suppose it was just really from a cash flow point of view, those waitressing jobs were keeping me going and stopping me from going into debt. And then once I started to build a client base, I then I remember I was saving £1,000 a month for my deposit for the house. So then everything I was earning was going into the house fund, the flat fund, and then my lifestyle and my fun was funded by keeping the bar jobs.
Okay, so you liked obviously socialising, and you had your bits and bobs. But you were super focused on buying this house, so that was what the £1,000 was. So, is that what you attribute the success of being able to save and not get into debt and still have fun? Was working hard to earn the extras for the fun you wanted, having a clear goal, and just making it happen every month and focusing on that?
Exactly. I'd sort of divided the two. Like the day job was for me to save for the first flat, and the evening jobs. My motivation really for doing the evening jobs was I could spend that money on whatever I wanted. That was my fun money. That was my buying probably very short dresses at the time money.
But you compartmentalized them. So in other words, you made it easy for yourself to be good with money, and you indulged. So it wasn't all about living on Rivitas and beans and rice, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll put aside the short dresses. We'll move on from that. But how long did it take you to buy your first flat? Because that was the big milestone, was it? And how was the job developing, the income?
So my deposit was 15 grand, and I did it with my my boyfriend, who's now my husband, and my friend and her boyfriend. So 4 of us went in 15,000 each. So it took me 15 months to save the deposit. And we bought a really nice 2-bed flat right by the station in Wimbledon. And I think we bought very sensibly, really. It was just what we wanted. And then by that time, work was starting to improve, but I definitely wasn't earning this 7,000 a month net that was my carrot.
But interestingly, 4 of you were buying a flat in Wimbledon, although flats in Wimbledon were still expensive 15 years ago. That was presumably you weren't spending much more than 20 or 30% of what you were earning on your housing, were you?
No, what we used to do is each of us paid £1,000 a month, because that's what we were used to spending. We paid £1,000 a month into this joint pot. And we always had this it didn't work out in the end this way, because then we went our separate ways, very friendly, but to buy our own homes separately after that. But the idea was that we would just keep saving this money and then always having money for the deposit for the next house. So the 1,000 would go in, and that would go into our joint account, and food bills, everything would come out. And essentially we were saving, I think, £500 a month each.
Without even thinking about it.
Without even realizing. So yeah, we were saving well, and that's obviously then what helped. Well, that money helped pay for my wedding. It helped a little bit towards the house that me and my husband bought, our first house.
So that's a good point then. Is you got into a very good habit early on buying the house. Then you pulled resources with your now husband, which was then boyfriend, stroke, and also your friends. And you just kept on putting that money in, and that was always more than enough to meet the cost of the housing, but also for extras that you were building. And then how did was the income rising? Did it start to rise beyond, how quickly did it rise?
So I remember a big turning point of me was I was 30, and I was walking along Wimbledon Common, and I don't know if you've been to Wimbledon Common, but it's surrounded by these huge, ginormous mansions.
Mm.
And I remember as a 19-year-old, having worked at Wimbledon Tennis, drinking dodgy cider on Wimbledon Common afterwards, thinking, I'm definitely going to own one of these houses. And I remember at 30 being really clocking how unambitious I'd become compared to 10 years prior, because I knew that I wasn't going to live in one of them. And I was starting to become what I felt was a bit too realistic. And I think I earned 40,000 on that 30th year. And I was like, right, something's got to change. This is not the plan that I had in my head. And perhaps I'd just been too loyal to a company in the past, that I said, right, I'm going to do this on my own. So once I'd got my chartered status, that's when I went looking for other opportunities, really, and setting up on my own.
That's an important point. Before we go on to what you then did, is you started out with ideals of wanting to do great stuff and having high expectations of yourself, a bit like a lot of young people do, or some young people. Then you drifted into a kind of an accepting your lot, or now we're not saying whether this is right or wrong to have this massive house or whatever. It could be completely wrong for you, but
exactly.
but the point was that your mindset in terms of what you were prepared and capable of doing, you started adjusting it to be normal or to be accepting, right? So, okay, then did you pinch yourself and thought, no, this isn't right? Because you said something, didn't you? You said, this isn't right. I'm not happy with this. What then happened? What was the epiphany? Or did it happen over several months?
No, I just sort of dared myself to get brave again. And
were you married at this stage?
That's when I started.
Were you married at this stage?
I just got married.
Ah, so presumably you discussed with your husband about the master plan, right?
No, it's always me with this.
Okay. He's a willing participant. He's a willing bystander, yeah.
We just moved into a house that's taken basically 2 years since buying to still not being completed. And the day we moved in, he told me he didn't really want to move anyway.
All right, so you're the driver then. You're the yeah. So I just want to go back to this bit of 30. So you decided this isn't the plan. I'm going to change firms. I'm going to step up the income. I'm getting into the world that I believe I'm entitled to and I deserve. So what did you do? You changed your company you were working for, did you?
Yeah, so I left that environment really being almost from an employed situation to being setting my own little thing up within Westminster Well. And so it was really, really scary, because I knew that the old company weren't going to be kind, that when people used to leave, you got sort of outcast, no one would ever speak to you. And they were my friends at the time. Well, they obviously weren't, because they didn't stay in touch with me. But I felt like they were my friends. And then, and I was also really scared that what if no clients would come with me? But all of them did, bar two. And so I was very lucky in that way, that they sought me out. And well, I was saying yesterday to one of my clients that he's been my client now for 15 years. And it's so lovely for me to see that long journey with someone. I really enjoyed that part of my job. So I'm very happy. I'm very glad that a lot of those clients came with me. And then I've just grown that financial advice business from there, really. And it also coincided with me wanting to have kids. So that was looking back, it was a really stressful time, trying to start the business, earn well, and have kids and time off, and try to get that motherhood work balance right. Was quite tricky. I feel like I'm through that now, because they're 5 and 6 and they're at school now. But yeah, my early 30s were hard work.
I'm interested if I can just touch on as far as you're comfortable to, because you said that you tend to be the CEO of the personal finances by the sounds of it, and the master plan. So when you got married, did you ever have chats with your husband to be, or when he was your husband, about how the money was going to be managed and how the day-to-day decisions, or did you just morph into it? Did you both assume the roles without actually speaking about it, like I'll do this, you do that, or and how has that developed over the years?
So initially, probably the only thing we would row about was my husband's passiveness towards money. So we couldn't be more opposite if we tried about money. He's not motivated by it, but he's very ambitious, but he's creative, he's arty. The only thing that stresses him out is our spreadsheets and numbers.
Oh,
so,
really? Oh.
Yeah, we couldn't be more opposite if we tried.
You get on with my wife. She hates a spreadsheet.
I love a spreadsheet.
I do. I know. I sometimes sit in bed with my spreadsheets. I love them. Yeah, but you don't have to be into spreadsheets, right, to be good with money. Just let everyone be clear. You don't have to be a spreadsheet geek like us. It's just it's something that gives you a warm, lovely feeling when you're playing with a spreadsheet. But it fills your husband and my wife with dread and fear. So that was the only conflict, or the only disagreement was just you feeling him not engaging in it, right?
Yeah. So and I would feel like I'm always doing the finances. I'm the one always making sure everything gets paid. So I handed over that role to him of the joint account, and the first month the mortgage didn't get paid.
No. Oh my God.
I know. I think he did it on purpose. So now the way we keep saying and don't argue about it is I just do it, and I set up the direct debits, and every month I tell him how much he needs to contribute to the joint account.
It's interesting. I mean, we should just touch on this. There are differences in relationships. We know money is one of the biggest causes of divorce, and even if not divorce, conflict and suboptimal relationships. Let's use that term, right? Scratchiness. And I certainly have had that in my relationship with my wife, because what you think is them not wanting to engage is just their thought process. The way they think is differently, and they had different upbringing. And I found it easier so for instance, we don't have any credit cards now. I mean, I know had in debt for some years, but I just don't, I've got rid of them. And you'll see from my smart spending system, it's just been updated on my website. It's we've taken it to another level now. Automation, partitioning, that all makes sense. But one of the things you can do is, as long as your partner who seems passive knows what the boundaries are, and it's not seen as a control mechanism. So my wife knows how much to spend on groceries. She knows how much is a different, and if it goes over that, it has to come from another pot. She just wants to know, and I'm sure your husband's the same, what the parameters are. And when you know what the guidelines are, and then it's just discussing with them the big stuff, right? Is that what you do? You sort of, not the minutiae, but you discuss the big stuff.
Yeah. So like every month I will put money aside for holidays, the annual expenditure.
Yeah. The lumpy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And my husband's really, really sensible with money. He's not flashy at all, but you're just not really at all. He doesn't even think about money really. So the way the system works is he transfers to the joint account stuff to make life run, and then I allocate it and sort it, and then whatever's in his account is what he spends.
Oh, okay, so that's simple for him, and it reduces friction. All right. Yeah. So let's just go back then to so after you got married, you started earning the big money. You then decided to move home. Is that right? The bit I wanted to do is this thing of moving home, having kids, increasing, because there's a lot of our female listeners who are struggling with the thought of how to do that, who may be just before that or in it at the moment. And I just wonder if you can share your experiences of what happened and how you navigated it.
Well, so I never felt that this plan would come together even 2 or 3 years ago. So we went from the flat to a house that was teeny and didn't have just only had a front garden, no back garden. And I wanted a garden at the back for the kids. So we were in that house. I was building the business, and I was still always in that the hard graft of the beginning of a business, really, where your efforts aren't necessarily rewarded proportionately. And I had the kids, and my husband's self-employed, so it felt a very emotional, financial roller coaster, really. And then I suppose, like all things, when you persevere, my business has become very steady and stable and very predictable. I actually, for new people wanting advice, have a waiting list now that I can't book new ones in until January, which is a lovely position to be in. But 2 or 3 years ago, I could never ever have imagined that I'd be where I am now. Then, if that makes sense. And then I think it was just about being determined, not giving. I suppose it was just determined. And I saw this house that we're in now, and it was a little bit of a stretch, and it was a little bit of madness. But again, I suppose that I went back to basics. That I can't afford to buy this house and rent another house while they do it up. So it was almost like full circle. I went back living with my mother-in-law and father-in-law rent free while they did it up.
Okay, so, needs must.
Yeah, and they were lovely about it and very, very accommodating. I'm sure we made their house very messy because it just no longer was us two; it was 2 + 2 kids. But I suppose I was willing to make that sacrifice as well.
But it wasn't forever, right? And this is a really important point I want everyone to take on. Sometimes, like when I teach people about how to get out of debt, right? You've got to just find a way, but it's not forever, right? Even if it's not ideal, even if it's discomforting, even if it's emotionally straining, if it's not forever, it's just a stepping stone. So you work with and that's what we call growth mindset. You found the way, you bought the house, and that was a bit of a stretch. So what did you learn about yourself in that transitional period from you had the children, the house that wasn't big enough, you had to buy the new house, move in with the in-laws? What did you learn about your kind of relationship with money at that stage? Because that must have been a massive strain on you.
Well, so we bought the house at the end of 2018. 2019, my husband's work just dried up.
Oh.
Literally dried up. He makes TV adverts. And then so there was no money coming in. And I learned so much about myself. In hindsight now, I'm really pleased that it happened. At the time, I was like, I'm going to have a nervous breakdown about this because I didn't understand how it changed. And using a lot of business coaching, a lot of hypnosis actually as well, I managed to find that fifth gear. And so I grew my earnings on my own by nearly 50% last year because I had to. I really didn't have a choice. It was either, if I was determined to reach the goal, something had to change. And so I really worked hard to make sure I could make that change.
Well, you've either got to cut expenses or grow income or both, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I did both. And then I'm really glad that I did that because the same happened when coronavirus happened. He wasn't able to work again, so no money coming in. And it didn't even remotely stress me out. And it was really interesting for me to see how much my mindset had improved because of the 2019 stress.
It was almost like preparation for it, right? So It's not the case that the rain is going to come; it is going to come. And I think you probably, I speak to loads of people, and I do lots of webinars for employee groups and stuff. And one of the things that I've been going on about emergency funds and fixing the roof while the sun's shining, going on and on and on and on. And of course, what coronavirus did was it actually exposed the weaknesses in most people's financial plans because they were always assuming everything's going to go great, nothing's going to go wrong. So you turned what could have been a drama into just a mere inconvenience with the coronavirus, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know that was lucky that I could still keep earning and that we're not in the same industry. So that it takes away some risk. But I learned a lot about myself.
And what was the big learning from the 2019 situation that put you in the right shape for, apart from growing your business? What was the big learning about your relationship with money and how you handle it and how you approach it?
I think I realized, when I was saying that when I was 30, I suddenly looked around and I'd allow myself, my ambitiousness to become realistic. And
you're settling.
Yeah. And then last year, again, this poor woman who had to coach me through it. I was really resisting her coaching for the good first 2 or 3 months. Like, I didn't understand what she was trying to teach me. And I think, and the conclusion that I drew was it was about getting that almost naive ambitiousness back, that because I haven't done it before, does that really not mean that I can't do it? And then I spent the end of last year and a bit of this year being coached by an someone who's very, very successful in the sporting field, at the top of their game, and using his coaching skills to help me improve on that, really, I suppose.
So it's just believing and setting a lofty sort of thing that you wanted to achieve, but also thinking about what was important to you. So to what extent do you think about what's important about money to you? And in other words, and also to what extent do you think about what makes you and your family happy and the role of money in achieving that? Because they're not always synonymous, are they?
No.
How do you square that circle?
So I think, well, I mean, you never know what's around the corner, but right now I feel like if I were to go back 3 years, I've achieved what I want to achieve, which is I feel safe. Like, I've got my cash, I've got my investments are all ticking over. I'm doing pension planning properly. And so that feels like the basic mechanics of my financial planning are in place. But now I see money and the earning of the money as the challenge, really. It's the barometer for me at the minute.
So it's marking the score.
And yeah, it really motivates me. So at the minute, I don't necessarily want to grow my financial advisory business much more, because there is no more capacity unless I take on another advisor.
And that's got its own dramas, isn't it? And
and just different, how I would like things doing as a financial advisor might not be how another person would. But so that I feel that's sort of nice. That's a nice business now. I don't want to rock the boat by taking on too many more clients in that section.
Just keep turning the handle. Yeah.
But the interesting bit, and the bit that's really motivating me now, is how do I make very good money out of Miss Lolly and She's on the Money? Because Miss Lolly at the moment is giving me an income of speaking, but it wasn't really giving me much more than that. And so I've spent probably the last 4 months with a coach really working in my head, like, how can I make those businesses match what I'm earning through the financial advisory business.
And presumably that's a bit like all of us who are in the knowledge and content business. We make money while we're asleep, because when we've created content, leadership, material, courses, whatever, it's working for us. So in other words, you're beginning with the end in mind, in the sense that you're being very purposeful about this, and this is about funding your lifestyle and building your future wealth. But you also do enjoy what you're doing as well. It's not a labor.
No, I mean, I couldn't work as hard as I do if I didn't love it. And I do love it, because it's so satisfying sorting out someone's money in the financial advisory side. I'm almost addicted to it.
But it's not like work then, is it, when you're in flow, because you know what needs to be done. So look, just want to sort of, because I'm mindful of the time here, I'm just wondering, what do you see are the classic mistakes? We'll come on to your wise wisdom in a minute, but I just wonder what the classic mistakes you see people make, particularly because you come across a lot of people who have a high income but don't have much money. They're in the old illusory wealth, aren't they? They're actually poor as church mice. So I'm particularly interested to hear your kind of what you've learned people do wrong who earn a fair to reasonable income.
Well, I think the first eye-opener I got into that world was, I had a client who was earning, his bonus was over £1 million a year after tax.
Is that all? Oh, do you know what?
Working
with these losers, yeah.
He is a loser, but but in the March he'd got his bonus, and in the May he was £30,000 overdrawn.
No.
And I just couldn't fathom it. I really couldn't fathom it. And the reason he became my client and got out of that mindset, because it was a loser mindset that he had, and I've helped him change that and then become an excellent client now, was we stripped back his outgoings were unbelievable. He was paying for things that I didn't even know you could pay for. Specialist wardrobes for your fur coats, for example. I didn't even know that was a thing. So one is, however much you're earning, you shouldn't live beyond your means. But also, I like to get my clients into the habit of, when you get that pay rise, let's make sure nothing changes. So we
live
just
like a student.
Spend that whole pay rise on planning properly, and so it's like it never happened. And I think doing that for a good few years can get you really far ahead. I also think it's never too late. So a lot of people think, oh God, I'm whatever age and I haven't done any financial planning, I need to sort my life out. It isn't too late. Well, assuming you're willing to keep working to get your money in order.
So that big mistake there then was that people spending what they're earning and more, and bonuses and future pay rises all in advance. So getting out of control, that's the big one. It's the spending and getting out of control.
You shouldn't plan your life on a bonus, because the clue is in the title. It's a bonus. So
as John Lewis partnership, people are finding out, right? There hasn't been bonus for a couple of years.
Yeah, and a lot of clients aren't getting bonuses this year. And so the bonus needs to be the cherry on the top of your financial planning, I think, rather than it's the school fees, it's the car that's in your driveway, it's this, that's the other. The bonus is a bonus.
And to what extent do you think people use their spending to make up for some other deficiency they have in their life, or their feelings, or their emotions, or their relationships, or their sense of self-worth?
Well, I have to really keep myself in check with this, because I really love fashion and clothes, and I have to just set myself a budget to make sure that I don't get carried away, because I really, really could get carried away. And
budget.
I don't think I'm doing that in a sort of I'm not doing it to show off. I'm just doing it because I do genuinely love it. But then in my drive right now, it's a car that doesn't work, and the garage has just written it off. And me and my husband got some quotes for cars, and I just can't believe that the cars that I see around me all day, every day, cost so much. So he sent me, for example, a Maserati, £1,000 a month for this car, a regular
If
Audi.
you have it on finance, if you have it on, why would you have a car on finance?
Well, this is what I'm trying to work out in my head. Like, my natural reaction is to go and buy a bit like what we've just had, a bit of a rubbish runaround.
Well, you know what Dave Ramsey says, and he's the guru who was a failure in his late 20s, and he's a multi-millionaire. He says you never spend, unless you have £1 million net worth, and I would say $1 million excluding your property, you never buy a new car, right? You never buy it on finance. And if you do buy a car, you always buy one that's never more than half your earnings ever, and you always pay cash. Because cars on finance and monthly payments is all part of that sucking out your ability to build wealth. And also when the poo does hit the fan, you've got these monthly payments, as everyone's finding, it's a liability on wheels. It's just an illusion, you know. When I go to my gym, I go to David Lloyd every day, and I see all the cars parked there. Well, certainly some months before coronavirus, I'd see a lot more. And I never saw a brand new car. I'd just see £1,000 a month, £800 a month, £400 a month, £1,500. That's all I see, right?
Yeah.
I drive my little car, 20 grand I paid for cash, my Mercedes estate, park it all up. You know, it's bought and paid for. I don't care what anyone thinks. Dogs go in the back. That's my view. But that means that you've got, again, it's other people living a lie, isn't it, really? That's what they're doing for monthly payments.
But it feels very normal to have a very, very swanky car. When you look around...
Good not to be normal, though, right? Be odd.
But it's been normalised that we spend... I mean, if I was just really thinking, well, if I were to even be spending £500 a month on a car, what's the impact of that if I overpaid that into my mortgage?
Yeah. There's a price to pay for it, isn't there? And the price is you're trying to impress people who don't give a flying what's it. And that's the problem. It's don't get me off on the car thing, because, don't get me wrong. I was hooked on cars when I was younger, thought it was all the answer. So I'm not saying I haven't made mistakes. I'm just trying to share with people, please, every time you sign up for a liability, you are reducing your ability to have flexibility and to be able to build wealth. And I'd say really wealthy people don't have swanky big flash cars. They might do, but they don't tend to. I know one bloke who's worth about 80 million quid and he drives around an old pickup truck. I'm not saying you've got to, Sarah. Lisa, I'm not saying you've got to drive an old pickup truck. All that money you're earning, you put it in the back. So, all right. So let's just finish off then with your sort of top tips that you would share that life has taught you and that you've learned from all these wonderful clients you've met over the years. What, just your top sort of money tips for getting ahead so that you feel comfortable and you get ahead and you're not exposed to financial vulnerabilities.
So number one will be money mindset. Really, I think that's the most important thing to get right, because it doesn't need to bring on heart palpitations and make you feel nervous. I think you need to teach yourself for it to be a positive thing. Being an ostrich never, ever, ever works. So face up to your financial bothers, and just don't ever get to the situation where you are having to pull your head out the sand. I mean, when the letter arrives through the door, open it immediately, deal with it, sort of mentality. I think push harder for more income. We know that most people a lot of people are underpaid. We know about the gender pay gap as well. So I think never ever be scared to talk about money. And then if you're all new to money, I always encourage people to get a money buddy. So someone who you can almost practice talking about money with, so money becomes, it doesn't become a taboo subject. You get used to the language of money coming out of your mouth.
It can also be an accountability partner, can't they?
Exactly. The accountability part, I think, is also extremely important. And just get used to dreaming, because I think money should be there to be a tool to get your dream life, whatever that is, rather than something that is restrictive, negative. I think money should become your tool.
Yeah, it's an enabler, isn't it? It's not a definer. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Lisa, you're a superstar. Miss Lolly, she's on the money. We'll put all the show note links in there. Really appreciate you spending time out your busy day with us. Lots of great ideas and concepts there, and thank you for sharing your own insights and journey. I know you're only really just getting going, aren't you? Because, you're only young, you've got plenty to go, but you seem to have lived a very long life in a short number of years. So I appreciate your insights, and we'll be watching you with interest.
Thanks. Speak to you soon.
Thanks for listening. If you want more money insights, do visit my website at jason-butler.com or connect with me on Twitter or Instagram at JB the Wealthman. See you next time.